It all began when I got bored working as a call center agent, and it had been 4 years of the same monotonous conversations. And I just thought, no, I can't go on with this. And I began to think, okay, so what do you want to do? Now, I studied French, and if anyone had told me years ago that you are going to be a French teacher, I would be like, no, 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 because all over French teachers are like, I never liked my French teacher. But at the end of the day, I really thought about it. Teaching, okay, French. You know what? Let's just give this a shot. And I really liked it because I think I brought fresh air, into the language classroom. That for me was quite eye-opening that I could actually teach. And I was teaching teenagers.
What propelled you then to start a business?
Let me backtrack a bit. I went and got a degree in childhood education, early years childhood education. Yeah, let's do this. Just go look for a location. I did find a location. I got an offer letter for the location, and then it was time to meet the landlord. And the landlord said, "Oh, so what do you do, madam?" And I was like, "Well, I want to start a language school. I already have tutors," which was true.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, I really love, what you're doing. This sounds very noble. I love your drive. I love the passion. I hear it in your voice. I'm just not convinced you'd be able to pay the subsequent rent."
Wow.
Yes, I was absolutely gutted. Yes, someone who knew I spoke French said, "Oh, there's a conference coming up, and the company that's organizing it, they needed interpreters." And I thought, okay, interpretation. Well, I'm not an interpreter, but I do know people who do interpret. So I began to do that search, and I just said, yes, yes, of course, we can do it. I never say no.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you all again after a while. I took a break for a bit, but we're back. I'm better. And I have a very special guest on the show today because she's a teacher who has become an entrepreneur. She started a company called Linguatopia, which is dedicated to connecting people and businesses through language. And I'm glad to have her on the show today. Her name is Feigne Suinner, and she's here to tell us about her journey and how she started a business from teaching language. Nice to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much, Bumi. It's great to be here with you on the show.
Yeah, I'm so honored to have you here because I haven't interviewed anybody like you before. I haven't interviewed anybody that can speak French and any other language. So it's fantastic that you dedicated some time to talk to us today.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's start with how it all began. What was that light bulb moment that made you believe that you had what it takes to turn your passion for languages into a business?
Well, thank you for that question. How did it all begin? It all began when I got bored working as a call center agent in one
Mm-hmm.
of the telecoms communications company in Nigeria. And it had been 4 years of the same monotonous conversations. And I just thought, no, I can't go on with this anymore. And I began to think, okay, so what do you want to do? Now, I studied French. And if anyone had told me years ago that you are going to be a French teacher, I would be like, no, 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 because all over French teachers are like, I never liked my French teacher. That's always been the comment when you ask anyone, especially in
And there's
Nigeria.
even and then teachers are not even paid well. So there's a stigma, so to speak, for teachers
Yes.
because you don't tend to earn as much as other professions. Hmm.
And so, of course, I thought about so many other things that I could have done with the skills that I had. But at the end of the day, I really thought about it. Teaching, okay, French. You know what? Let's just give this a shot.
Hmm.
And I resigned from the company and I moved into teaching one of the schools in Lekki, Lagos. And that for me was quite eye opening that I could actually teach. and I was teaching teenagers. So my very first introduction to teaching French was, to teenagers. And I really liked it because I think I brought fresh air, into the language classroom. Because I remember even then, some of the students would say, Madam Fame, why are you a French teacher? You should be working in a bank or, somewhere else. So, they just had this picture that French teachers are supposed to be boring, they're supposed to be drab, they're supposed to be wicked, and I was none of that. I really wanted the children to learn and to enjoy the language. And that was what I brought into the classroom. And from then on, it's been a wonderful experience. It's been a wonderful journey. So that's how it really all started, from boredom.
Okay. Okay, but let me take you back a bit because I'm sure some people might have been wondering, did you get the job as a French teacher before you quit the job at the telecoms company, or it was while you were there that you sought for another job and then you got it and then left the other one?
Okay. No, I did get the job before I left.
Okay.
I was actually on leave and I thought, okay, use this opportunity to find out what exactly it is that you want to do. So
Mm-hmm.
I did a lot of searching online. I was speaking to people, I want to teach. And then someone just said to me that actually, not someone, my dearly beloved mother, you know, she said, oh, you don't want to teach? Okay, you don't want to work here anymore?
Hmm.
Okay. And she started talking to her friends, and she spoke to one friend who spoke to another friend who said, oh, you know what? My school is looking for a French teacher. And then I went in for the interview, and voila.
Wow. But you must have had an inkling that you were good, you liked teaching. Because, there are many people that have the knowledge but don't have the skill to teach. As in,
Mhm.
there are people that can speak French but cannot teach it.
Yes.
So what gave you the confidence to know that you could do this successfully?
I just believed that I could. And
Okay.
I think that's one thing that really drives me to do the things that I have done. I've
Hmm.
always believed that why not just go ahead and just do it. I've always believed that I would be successful in anything that I said I was going to do. And that was just it. I never looked at the fact that I didn't have a teaching qualification, which was a requisite.
Yeah.
Especially if you are going to teach in an international school, which is where I actually started.
Hmm.
But I didn't have that. But because I had done a lot of research, and when I went in for that interview, the principal at that time said, "Oh wow, you're a people person. We definitely need those skills here. I like your background in customer service, and you seem to know a lot about the British education, which was I was just reading a lot really."
Hmm.
He just felt that okay, and mind you, after I had that interview, I had to do a classroom demonstration because
Oh, right.
yes, and that was what convinced them that right, she fits the bill. So
Okay.
that was
Okay.
it.
All right. So how long did you teach for before starting the business?
Ooh, well, that's also another very good question because I stopped teaching at that particular school and I
Mhm.
moved into an entirely different area, which was oil
Okay.
and gas.
Ah,
I moved to,
interesting.
I know.
Okay.
So I was a general manager and marketing for one of the station outlets.
Okay.
So I did that for about 5 years. But while I was still doing that, I was still taking private classes
Okay.
for students. And so I never really left teaching, even though I wasn't in the classroom. So I
Mm-hmm.
did that for a while. And then, of course, my heart kept pulling me back. No, go back to the classroom and teach. You know, you love to do this. And then the search started again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got it through LinkedIn. The head of the school actually sent me a message. And she
The head
said,
of which school? Your previous school?
not the previous one. So I used to, is it okay for me to say the name? Is-
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay,
It's okay.
good. So, Children's International School.
Okay.
So she had sent me a message and said, "Oh, we're looking for French teachers. If you think you fit the bill, send your CV
Mm-hmm.
to so and so person." And I was on holiday again at that time, and I thought, okay, I've got nothing to lose. Just send in your CV. Even though
Mm-hmm.
I had a very long break from teaching in the classroom, and again, I got called in for the interview. I did another demonstration interview in the classroom, and that was it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you went back into teaching again. So what propelled you then to start a business? And did you start the business while you were teaching as well?
No, I did not. So let me backtrack a bit. Now, before I got that teaching job, I wanted to start a language school because I saw that there was a gap. And I also wanted to change the perception that people had about, especially children, about
Mm-hmm.
language learning. And I thought, you know what, just go ahead and do this. And I went and got a degree in childhood education, early years childhood education. And I thought that I would begin immediately to, yeah, let's do this, just go look for a location and all of that. I did find a location and I was so excited about it. And I just thought, okay, the reception's going to be here, the classrooms are going to be, it was prime location. I was
Mm-hmm.
really, really excited about this. But the I had even ordered books, Spanish, Chinese, French, because I just thought, you know what, this is something that is really needed. I haven't seen anything around, and I just feel it would be good for the educational sector. I got an offer letter for the location, and then it was time to meet the landlord. And the landlord said, "Oh, so what do you do, madam?" And I was like, "Well, I want to start a language school. I already have tutors," which was true.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Oh, I really love, what you're doing. It sounds very noble. I love your drive. I love the passion. I hear it in your voice. I'm just not convinced you'd be able to pay the subsequent rent."
Wow.
Yes. And I was absolutely gutted. I just thought, where do I go to from here?
But isn't that strange? You had already paid for the first year, or at least
No,
demonstrated
no, I
that you
hadn't.
could.
I had only
Okay.
received the offer letter
Okay. Okay.
for payment. So, but the landlord said, "Well, I need to meet my tenants.
Okay.
And
Okay.
and that was just it.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, well, maybe this is true. Maybe it's not true. But I thought maybe I'm being a little bit too ambitious. Maybe there's certain things that I still need to learn. So I really took that no as a learning curve for me. Maybe there's just some things that I need to still learn. And that was when I decided, okay, you know what, let me go back to the classroom and then begin to teach. Now, after I had taught in that school for a while, I got an offer to come and head a department, children's department at my church, because they had wanted to restructure the curriculum, they had wanted to put in policies and all of that. And because I had been a volunteer Sunday school teacher, I thought, okay, you know what? Let's do this. So I was there for 5 years, up until 2 years after COVID. So, in terms of the business, how it really started was during the lockdown.
Okay.
Everyone was at home, and really, because the core of what I was doing in the church was really on Sundays, and because there were no Sunday services anymore, I just thought to myself, okay, so even though we're having the online services, I did have a lot of time on my hands, and that was when I
Mm-hmm.
thought, what would you do if you lost your job? Because a lot of people were losing their jobs at that time. And it was at that point that the Holy Spirit, I'm a Christian, the Holy Spirit said to me, you know what, you should teach. And I said, teach what? Teach French. And I really thought about it. I said, oh, okay. I have all that I need. I'm familiar with Zoom. Just do it. And I put out a video on my Instagram page because a lot of people didn't know that I could speak French. My Instagram page was for foodie hopping and cafe hunting. So I would always post everywhere that I was going to. And so when I put out that video, a lot of people started sending me, can you speak French? And I had 5 people sign up
Wow.
for first 5. I was really shocked. And then when the lockdown went into the second month, they were like, you know what, let's keep going. And
Mm-hmm.
that was, and then I had a lot of friends who wanted their kids to also learn French. And that was how it started. And then I remembered, you know, you have a company that you registered many years ago, and there's an account for it even in the bank. Well, why don't you just put structure into this? And I began. I got a website. I designed the website. I started using Canva to learn how to. I don't even want to remember my first Canva post. That was terrible. But I just started doing all of that. I put the structure in place, and that's really when it began in full force during the lockdown. So when we
Okay.
got back to, when the restrictions were lifted, I still kept doing it on the side. And in 2022, I decided to resign fully and start. Here we are
Wow.
today.
Wow. There's so many interesting things that you said now that I think it's really important. I'm a Christian as well, and I think nothing happens by chance. And just thinking about all the things that you've said now, I feel that it was God leading you towards what you were eventually going to do. You
Absolutely.
said you said you registered a business, account number, and all of that, but you didn't use it then. But he knew that you would eventually need it, you
Yes.
know. Then you went back to school to get a degree in early childhood education.
Yes.
You know, and that part really resonated with me because sometimes we have ideas, we want to start businesses, but we don't feel the need to get the skill that is required to start the business. And not many people will go back to school to go and learn, or to go back to get a degree to learn or be
Yes.
skilled in what they want to actually specialize in, which
Yes.
which is really inspiring, you know. And then again, the lesson about how to start a business, as in sometimes um I see entrepreneurs invest so much without testing the theory, testing the idea, or not starting small. You know, I read a book about how to start a business. I can't remember the name now, but the essence of what they were saying is you start small, you test the idea first. Instead of investing so much in offices and all of that, what really matters is the product. If you get the product right, then
Yes.
you can begin to layer on the additional expense. So I guess you were being saved of the expense of that you didn't mean to
I
incur
guess I
then.
was. I guess I was.
Okay. Okay. So I remember you said you started with 5 people and then referrals from friends and family.
Yes.
But then did you have to do any advertising to get more people to know your business, or everything was referral, so you grew organically?
Yes. Well, I would say it was a bit of both, mostly referrals, but of course, I did have to do a bit of marketing. There was no way
Mm-hmm.
that I could have grown the company without letting people know what the company was about. I'll give an example. Quite a few people know that Linguatopia is a language services company, but they don't know that we also do interpretations for conferences and for small meetings where you have different requirements in different languages. So we do Spanish, we do Portuguese, we do obviously French. And that, of course, I had to do a lot of marketing. with, and just getting that message out there that this is something that you need. Quite a number of people think that, oh, if I need an interpreter, I have to go to ECOWAS or I have to go to United Nations and talk to someone. No, there are actually companies, we're one of them. We can provide you with that service as well. We also do voiceovers for products and services. We do for German, we do for French and English as well. So those are some of the areas where people might not think that we are in, but we are actually in those sectors as well.
Okay. So good thing you said that, because I was taking you in a direction that actually presupposed that it is only French that you teach. Meanwhile, the company does so many other things. So, but did you already know that there was a demand for this kind of service, or it started with the teaching of languages and then you began to see needs for other things and then the company began to expand its product offering, or how did it go?
That's exactly how it went. When you're in the language space, what happens is that you just pick up bits and pieces of requirements or needs in that space, and then you say, okay, well, I can offer this service. So that's exactly how it happened. I remember our very first, which is quite interesting, our very first interpretation job. How did I'm trying to remember now who told
How
me?
you got it?
Someone, yeah, someone who knew I spoke French said, "Oh, there's a conference coming up, and the company that's organizing it, they needed interpreters." And I thought, okay, interpretation. Well, I'm not an interpreter, but I do know people who do interpret. So I began to do that search, and I just said, "Yes, yes, of course, we can do it." I never say no. And so that was how I, began to speak to people, and they was like, yes, yes, I can do this, I can do this. And that was how we started with that. Even with the equipment as well, we were able to put everything together that was required for the interpretation service. And that was it. So most of the time, really, it's referral. And that's why it's important for one to always talk about what it is that they do. Otherwise, people will never know. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm I'm honestly only on LinkedIn and Instagram because, well, you know what? If you don't do this, nobody's going to know. It's like you're winking in the dark. You're the only one who knows what you're doing. Nobody else does. So that's it.
Okay. Okay. So that brings me to the next question about your brand. I went to your website, even your LinkedIn page. It looks very deliberate, very niche, very nicely done. So what went into building the brand and the product services that you offer? What was your thought process like?
My thought process, I wanted Linguatopia to be seen as a professional but fun space if you are there to learn a language. And I'll say something. I remember there was this client that began chatting with me before she eventually signed up. She said, I hope you're not wicked, though. Because the last tutor I had online was very wicked. And I began to laugh, and I said, no, 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 don't worry. There's no pressure here. Because as an adult, when you're learning a language, it can be very daunting. It really
Yeah.
can be. And it takes a lot of time. And as a tutor who's teaching a fellow adult, you have to be very patient and let them know that, don't worry. If you make this, hey, don't worry, this is a safe space. And they make mistakes a lot, and we just laugh about it. I said, don't worry, you'll overcome this.
Hmm.
So that was the image that I wanted to project. And so even when you look at the colors, it's very deliberate. I also wanted to tie the colors in with the colors of Africa
Hmm.
because where the company was going was to connect Africans through language. And that's why we also have African languages that we do: Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, Swahili, and we're going to be expanding as time moves on. So everything was really deliberate. And the reason is because I truly believe that your first tie to your culture is your language.
Yeah. Correct.
Even if you don't speak your mother tongue, you should at least be able to speak one mother tongue. That's my belief.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain camaraderie that happens when you meet someone who can speak your language, especially if you're in a foreign land.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a foreign land. And I've noticed that more and more parents are not emphasizing the need for their children to learn the local language. So, and some of them are also half baked in language speakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you might find somebody who grew up in a Yoruba home, but their Yoruba is maybe
Yeah.
about 40%. So for them, it's how am I even going to teach my child if I can't even speak it
Speak.
properly? But
Yeah.
that's why we're here, really, is to
Yeah.
help you to overcome that. But it's important for every child to learn, and every person really to learn, especially if you're African. And even if you're not African, you must learn how to speak a language. The connection is magical when it happens. It's so
You know,
magical.
interestingly, I remember a post that I watched of someone on Instagram. This lady, she's an influencer. She lives in America, but she's able, and
Yes.
she was saying something that I thought was really really important. She said the people that are in diaspora, that are Nigerians, that cannot speak their language, want to, but don't because when they try, their own people, the people that are supposed to correct them, make fun of them. So that it is easier for her to go and learn French than to
Mm,
actually learn her own language because there's no stigma. The French will
mm,
correct you, they will even applaud you for trying. But
mm.
your own that should
Yes.
encourage you will make fun of you for not being able to
Yes.
speak your own language.
Yes.
So
Yes.
really, if we want to, what's the word, foster our culture and ensure that the language, the knowledge of the language remains, then we have to actually encourage both the children that actually are currently in Nigeria and those abroad to speak the
Yes.
language, whether they speak it well or not, but just to speak it, to create that safe space that people can speak the language, even if they're not speaking it fluently, and know that there will be no judgment. It's a judgment-free zone to learn. Yeah, so I think
Absolutely.
that's a very good service you're offering. If you can provide people a place to learn even their own language, which most people will say shouldn't exist because you're Nigerian or you're Yoruba or whatever, you should be able to speak your language. But now more than ever before, it is more necessary because I see that we are losing our
We are.
culture.
We
Yeah,
are. We are.
yeah. So that's really interesting. Okay, so how do you get your teachers? And especially the ones that are not speaking languages. No, no, I don't wait. No, no, wait. No, no, I'm not asking you to divulge any trade secrets, but I'm serious. As in, not even for the African languages, because like for instance, I didn't think that I could learn a language like Japanese in Nigeria because the only
Mm,
language that I know most people or most schools, especially the international
yes.
ones teach is
Yes.
French, for instance.
Yes.
But from what you're saying, you said Chinese. At least that was your vision when you started. So do you
Yes.
offer languages, other foreign languages apart from French?
Yes. Yes, we do.
Okay,
We
okay,
do Spanish, we do Portuguese, we do German.
okay,
Chinese has not quite picked up yet. Quite a few modalities that need to go into that, but it's definitely something that we want to offer
okay,
in the near future. Yes.
okay, okay. So tell me about your business model. Let me move away from trade secrets. So how do you I know you've explained the products that you offer, but what's the revenue model? How do you make money?
Well, we have two main streams. So
Okay,
one is the language services that we offer, and the second is the interpretation services that we offer. And
okay,
the process is quite simple. If you want to learn any of the language that I've mentioned, either the three major ones in Nigeria, or you want to do French, Spanish, Portuguese, or Swahili, you just log onto our website and you click on the information which says learn a language.
hmm,
You click on the tutor that you feel you'd be comfortable with, and
okay,
you make your payment, and that's it. You can start using the platform to learn a language. If you are looking for interpreters for a conference or a small meeting, then the process is simple. You just send us an email on the website, and we'll respond and get all the requirements for your meeting. So it's pretty simple. It's pretty
okay,
simple.
okay, okay. And bearing in mind that there are other companies and services that do the same thing as you, what makes Linguatopia different? How do you differentiate yourself in a market that can be crowded?
So our major offering really is that we are focusing on African languages. And I know somebody might say, oh, but you do French, you do
Yeah.
Spanish, you do Portuguese.
Uh,
Well, the truth about
mhm,
it is that those languages are official languages in
mhm.
Africa, right? So we cannot not be cognizant of that fact and say, well, we're not going to offer this service because we just want to be purely African. That would be plain silly.
Yeah. Mm,
Okay, you provide a service that the society needs, and
yeah.
so that's pretty much what we do, and that's what we are hoping that in the next few years we'd be able to do very well, so that we are known as a reliable company in that area of teaching African languages.
Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. And What were some of the obstacles you faced or are still facing while trying to grow your business,
Obstacles. I,
especially in the Nigerian space?
in the Nigerian space. Oh, wow. In the Nigerian space, I would say one of the obstacles is the quality of the internet provider can be a bit frustrating. So, as a tutor, you find yourself using two or three providers just in case one
Hmm.
decides to, that's
Yeah,
one obstacle. Another one is power. So you must always have backup power. Sometimes you might even decide, do you know what, for the next 2, 3 hours that I'm going to be teaching, I'm not even going to reply on local supply. I'm just going
hmm,
to use my backup and
yeah,
have the lesson so that it's interrupted. And sometimes that really feeds into your revenue because at the end of the day, when you look at the numbers, you're
yeah,
wondering,
yeah.
where did all this money go? I thought I made a ton of money. And then you check, oh yeah, I had to buy diesel. So
Wow.
that's, yes. Thirdly, getting good tutors who are really passionate about teaching and who truly understand where we're going as a company. I've interviewed a lot of people who speak, and sometimes even during the demonstration classes that we have, because we're fully virtual,
Okay.
I find that not some people don't have laptops and they want to use their phones. And I'm sorry, you can't teach
Mm,
online effectively if you're
yeah.
using just your phone. Now, I know some people would argue that, but I've been doing this. And then I say, okay, so can you tell me what your numbers are? Because those things, if you're using your phone, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying you can't, but you can't do it every single time.
Hmm.
Imagine if we were doing this interview now and I was using my
Yeah.
phone. It would
Yeah.
not be a very pleasurable experience.
Yeah.
You can't really share your screen and you can't,
Hmm.
take annotations like you would with Zoom. And those
Yeah.
things are what make the virtual learning experience an enjoyable one.
Yeah.
And also, there seems to be a lack of training of French or language teachers. And so that's an area that we may likely look at going into because it's a real need. About 3 weeks ago, I had to do a training on using AI in the French classroom, and the feedback was mind blowing
Hmm.
because let's even leave the effective use of AI in the classroom. There's simple basic skills that you could use in the classroom to make your teaching interesting. I had a particular teacher who teaches in one of the public schools in Lagos, and she said she had 50 children in her classroom and she was teaching French. And in my head, I'm thinking, 50, that's a lot. So, first of all, you have 50 children who don't want to learn French. It's
Yeah.
like, why do I need to learn this? And then, two, you have a teacher who's not up to date with the skills that's needed to teach in the classroom. And so we had to do a lot of brainstorming. So what do children like? So if you've got boys in the classroom, you talk about their favorite footballer in French. That's going to endear them to, okay, Sorry, I'm trying to think of a footballer's name. I can't think of okay, Ronaldo, right? You talk about Ronaldo, or what is his name in French, or what team does he play for? You have to be up to date with their
Yeah.
world so
Hmm.
that you can bring them into your world. So
Yeah.
there's a lot that needs to go on in the creative space. So those are the three major areas that I feel are obstacles in
Okay.
the business.
Okay. And
Yes.
typically, how long does it take someone to be, or maybe I should backtrack and ask, do you teach people to the point where they're fluent? Is that the goal? And if yes, how long does it take the average person to learn a language?
The average person, it takes between 9 to 12 months of, let's say, a minimum of 6 hours per week of
Hmm.
learning. So, people are different, even in their learning style. For some people, it takes longer. And then we have to also remember that some people work, some people have
Hmm.
got families. So you find that someone who's a university leaver who probably wants to go and study abroad, they have got the time. So they could
Yeah.
even do 3 hours a day, and within 4 months, they're fluent.
Hmm.
And the amount of time that you also put into the work outside of
Of
your
learning.
learning hours is really important. There's no way you can be fluent if you don't practice. And I know I always advise that if you are learning a foreign language and you can afford it, after you've done a few modules, take a trip. Take a trip to that country. If you can afford it again, take a trip to that country and really be immersed in that language so that you really get to hear even some of the nuances that you don't hear when you're teaching in the classroom, because sometimes
Hmm.
it can be very textbook based.
Yeah.
So I hear people a lot say, "Oh, I went to France. I couldn't understand the things. Please explain this French now." And then
It
I'm
happened
like,
to me actually. They were speaking so fast. I was like, I immediately had to switch back to English because I was like, I can't hear you.
yes,
Interestingly, I feel that the competence of listening is the most difficult for me. As in, reading is English is easy,
yes,
but listening is the most difficult because even if you know the vocabulary, because words sound alike, I mean similar, and you have to take, I tell people, I say, when you're listening to someone in the same language as you, you're not necessarily listening for the words. You are listening to the whole sentence because you understand the language. But if you are learning a new language, you are picking the words one by one. And
yes,
it's difficult to combine those words together to make sense quickly
yes,
enough, you know.
yes,
No, so it's really challenging what you just said. I remember. Really
yes.
challenging.
Yes, but the thing is this: it's okay to take pauses to think about what you want to say. And I think the challenge with most of us, even when we speak English, we want to say what we want to say as quickly as possible. But the brain
Yeah.
doesn't work that way. The
Yeah.
brain takes time to process what it is that you want to say so that it doesn't jumble up the words and then you open your mouth and you notice that, oh, I said was instead of is. And the person who's listening to you is wondering, what are you saying? I don't know. So it's okay. And I really do encourage my students to take their time to speak. And even with listening activity, I recommend starting slow. So I never, if you are a beginner, say A1, A2, I never recommend that you go and start watching
Movies in
France,
French.
France 24 or movies in, well, movies in French is fine because sometimes you can slow down the pace
Okay.
and then you can pick and then you can always pause and then, oh, I heard them say this, and then you write it down
Hmm.
and then you now pick up new vocabulary. But it's important for you to train your ears to listen. And if you are in front of someone and you don't understand, just say, I'm sorry, could you please repeat? I don't understand. And
Hmm.
there's really no shame in it. And just like someone said, well, I've made the effort to learn your language, so can you please give me the honor of not being
Yeah.
irritated when I'm saying a lot of gibberish.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I do love languages in the sense that it keeps the brain active. There's so much brain work that's going to learning another language. So when I find people that can speak one or two different languages, I'm like, that's that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
You won't really know unless you actually try learning a different language, how tasking
Yes.
it is.
It is very
So
tough.
kudos
It is very
kudos to
tough.
you.
Thank you.
So back to the business aspect though. So how long have you been in the business? Maybe could you do you, is there anything that you've learned now that you wish you had known before you started? Maybe it would have made a difference, yes or no?
I suppose this is a good one now. Not
Take your
being
time.
yeah, not being too hard on myself
Mm-hmm.
in the sense that because I have a goal and I want to get there pretty fast and just because of my personality, I'm the kind of person that when I start something, I'm like, let's go, let's go, let's go. I lack the
Mm-hmm.
patience. And so I find myself, or I have found myself in the past, rushing to make decisions without actually thinking it through. And so that's one of the things that believe that if I had just been patient and waited, I would probably not have made some of those mistakes. I'm trying to think of something now. It will come to me, but most importantly, patience and not being too hard on myself. And knowing that it also takes time to build a business, to build a brand, knowing people, or getting people to understand what it is that you do. Even today, when I say I run a language services company, they're still thinking like, okay, what's that? you know, and then I have to
Yeah.
start. explaining, but it's totally fine because it's all part of the process. And
Mm.
the goal is that one day in Africa and beyond, Linguatopia would be the first name that you would go to when you want to learn a language. So I'm
Amen.
being very patient. Yes, I'm being very patient with everything. It's not been easy, especially when you have to invest your resources, and sometimes there are very dry days, and you're
Mm-hmm,
wondering,
mm-hmm.
I think I should go and look for a job. Let me just send that CV. And just at the
Yeah.
point where you think, let me hit the send button, somebody just says, oh,
Mm,
I'd like to learn French, or I'd like to learn this language or that language. And I'm like, oh, okay. you know, because I am quite happy with where we are at the moment. And
mm-hmm,
even where I'm at the moment, there's very little pressure. And if you work from home in Lagos, it's a blessing. I have to say it's
mm-hmm.
a blessing because the traffic is is a lot. It's quite a
Yeah.
lot. Working from home is it has been a blessing for me. So
Okay.
yes,
Okay. And then I'm curious about one more thing before I let you go.
go ahead.
You speak well, you teach well, but how do you replicate yourself in your teachers? As in, because I feel that most companies, the two problems that they face is human resource, finding the resource, and then inculcating the brand or the culture of the company into the people that are employed. So how have you been able to navigate that challenge?
It's an ongoing challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one thing that is important to note is that not everybody will teach like me.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I have my teaching style, and I also appreciate some of the skills that are in my tutors. I have my Igbo tutor. She's fantastic. She teaches the language of Igbo using games. She's got
Wow.
flashcards. Yes, she's got flashcards. She uses, she's just very dedicated to it, and that's the one thing that I look out for. So it's not so much as replicating me; it's about
Mm-hmm.
replicating the skill and harnessing the skill, and saying, how are you guys doing in this area? Sometimes I ask them to submit their slides, and it's like, oh no, here we go again. you know Submit your slides. I just want to see what you're doing, and put myself in the place of a tutor. So if you are teaching a child and your slides lack color, I'm saying, no, you need to sprinkle, some rainbow
Mm-hmm.
colors in
Mm-hmm.
there
Mm-hmm.
just to make it look vibrant. Now, if you're
Mm-hmm.
teaching an adult, of course, you don't need that many colors, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't need that many colors. Some people don't mind, but I don't think I would want to see a lot of colors. But then again, I do like colors, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
mind. But not everybody is like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just getting them to remain committed and to communicate. Do you have any challenges? Let me know, because I am here to help you. It's not about, I'm not giving you a checklist, to-do list. No, it's about, this is where we're going together, and I want us all to get there together. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much the way I communicate with my tutors. It's about the passion. It's about infusing a fun aspect of learning the language, and making sure that your student feels very much at ease. In the past, I've had quite a few tutors that didn't quite fit this bill, and as a result, I had students leave. No, I could not
Mm-hmm.
afford to have anybody leaving, and I had to say, and so when you constantly say, "This is how I would like you to do," it, and they don't get it, some people really will not get it, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
So you have to let the person go. But so far, I'm very happy with my team, and I'm looking forward to expanding, because there's so many lovely languages in Africa, and some of them are even going extinct, which is
Yeah.
quite sad. And so we want to fill that gap. We really do want to fill that gap. Yeah.
All right. So, parting words for our listeners. Any parting words of advice? Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Ooh,
Anything.
In the next 5 years, we should have developed into an app based
Okay.
platform. We should be the number one language company in Africa. And hopefully, the next time you see me, I'll be jetting off my jet.
Amen. Fingers crossed for you.
Yes, but really, that the goal really is to be on the lips of every African. If I want to learn a language, it doesn't matter how small it is, even if it's Bambara in Mali or Twi in Ghana. Okay, I can go to this platform, and I can definitely find someone who's going to teach me effectively.
Okay.
So that's
It's
it.
been lovely speaking to you. We've learned a lot. Thank you for
Likewise.
sharing your story. I
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you in your private jet. I'm being able to download Linguatopia on my phone in the very near future. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for me.